I had been married to Robert for 43 years. At my age 66, I thought nothing could shock me anymore. We'd been through thick and thin, raising children, burying loved ones, even surviving the kind of arguments that once felt like tea. It was a Wednesday late. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. My son Daniel had gone on a business trip. His wife, my daughter-in-law Claire, was staying with us while he was away. That had become routine lately. Too routine maybe. I was sitting in the living room knitting when I noticed the clock. Nearly midnight. Robert wasn't in our room. Neither was Claire in hers. My stomach tightened. I walked down the hallway, the wooden floor creaking under my slippers. That's when I saw the light beneath Robert's study door, and I heard it. Low voices. Laughter. And then, sounds I couldn't quite place. Hook. My heart pounded. I leaned closer, pressing my ear against the wood. And what I heard made my blood run cold. Before I continue, let me pause and ask you, where are you watching from? A quiet small town like mine or a busy city? Tell me in the comments, I'd love to know. And if you don't want to miss how this story unfolds, please subscribe now. I held my breath, listening. At first, I told myself I was imagining things. That it was the television. That Robert and Claire were discussing something innocent. But the longer I stood there, the harder it became to convince myself. The laughter wasn't the laughter of in-laws. It was too soft. Too intimate. And then came the words, muffled but clear enough to slice through me. "Shoo," Claire whispered. "What if she hears us?" "She's asleep," Robert murmured. "Don't worry." My knees nearly gave way. I gripped the doorknob for balance, fighting the urge to fling the door open. I stumbled back down the hall, heart racing, throat tight. In the mirror above the mantel, I caught sight of myself. Pale, trembling, eyes wide with disbelief. No, I told myself. It can't be. Not Robert. Not Claire. Not under my roof. But the words I had heard would not leave me. The next morning, Robert sat at the table with his newspaper, calm as ever. Claire poured coffee, humming softly, her face flushed but smiling. "Sleep well, Mom?" she asked too sweetly. I forced a nod, though my stomach churned. Robert didn't look up, but I noticed the faintest curve of a smile on his lips. The same smile I'd seen when we were first married, the smile he used to reserve only for me. Now it was for her. I excused myself, retreating to the bedroom. I closed the door and pressed my back against it, my breath shallow. How long had this been happening? Had everyone noticed but me? I thought of Daniel, my son, her husband. He trusted her. He trusted his father. What would this do to him? And what would it do to me, knowing the two people I should have trusted most had betrayed me under my own roof? I pressed my fists against my eyes, trying to block out the image forming in my mind. But I couldn't, because the truth had already begun to settle, heavy and cruel. That night, I lay awake in the dark beside Robert, listening to his steady breathing. My mind replayed every laugh, every glance I'd seen between them. The puzzle pieces I had ignored suddenly fit together. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake him awake and demand answers. But fear held me back. Fear that the truth, once spoken aloud, would destroy everything. And yet, in my heart, I already knew. The destruction had already begun. The morning after that sleepless night, the house felt different. Or maybe I did. Every sound, every glance seemed heavier, loaded with meaning I hadn't noticed before. Claire sat at the kitchen table, scrolling on her phone, her hair damp from a shower. Robert walked in a moment later, freshly shaven, wearing the cologne he hadn't touched in months. My chest tightened. He used to wear that cologne only for me. "Morning," he said casually, kissing the top of my head. His lips lingered a fraction longer than usual, as though to prove something. I forced a smile, but my stomach churned. Later, while folding laundry, I noticed Claire's blouse at the bottom of the basket. It smelled faintly of Robert's cologne. I pressed it to my face, hoping I was wrong. But the scent was undeniable. I dropped it as though it burned me. At dinner, Robert poured Claire a glass of wine before he poured mine. She laughed at one of his jokes, her hand brushing his arm across the table. Too familiar. Too comfortable. My fork clattered against the plate. Both of them looked at me. "You all right?" Claire asked, her eyes wide, pretending concern. "Yes," I muttered, forcing a smile. "Just tired." But inside, my suspicions grew sharper, like glass cutting into my chest. That evening, I walked into the study to fetch a book. Robert and Claire were standing close together, too close. When they saw me, they stepped back instantly. "Oh, Mom," Claire said quickly. "Robert was just helping me with some finances Daniel left me to handle." I looked at her, then at him. Finances? At nearly midnight yesterday. The room went still. Robert cleared his throat. "It's nothing to worry about. Just a small matter." I nodded, pretending to believe, but inside rage boiled. That night I couldn't sleep again. I paced the hall quietly, watching the doors. When I passed Claire's room, the bed was neatly made. The sound of low voices floated from Robert's study once more. My hands shook, but I didn't go closer this time. I already knew. The next morning, as I sipped my coffee, Daniel called from out of town. "Hi, Mom," he said warmly. "How's everything at home? Is Claire behaving herself? She worries about leaving you and Dad alone." I froze. The words cut like a knife. "He worries about leaving me alone?" I swallowed hard. "Everything's fine, Daniel. Just fine." I wanted to scream the truth. To tell him his wife wasn't the woman he thought she was. But the words caught in my throat. Because how could I shatter his world when mine was already crumbling? That afternoon, I passed Robert's office and saw Claire slip out, her face flushed, her hair slightly mussed. She froze when she saw me. "Mom," she stammered. "I was just borrowing a book." Her lie hung in the air, heavy and brittle. I said nothing. Just watched her walk quickly down the hall. By evening, I sat alone in the bedroom, staring at Robert's wedding band on the nightstand. He had taken it off earlier, said it was too tight. But in my mind, I couldn't stop seeing him without it, his hand bare as it rested too close to Claire's. I pressed my palms together, whispering a prayer I wasn't sure anyone could hear. "Lord, give me strength. Because if this is true, I don't know how much longer I can carry it alone." And deep down, I knew I couldn't pretend much longer. Because the signs were no longer whispers. They were shouts, echoing through every corner of the house. By the third day, my body was heavy with exhaustion. The nights without sleep were catching up with me, but my mind refused to rest. Every laugh, every whisper between Robert and Claire played on a loop in my head. I told myself I needed proof. Real proof. Because what if I confronted them and they denied it? What if I destroyed my family on suspicion alone? Oh, I had to be sure. That afternoon, I waited until Claire went out for groceries and Robert retreated to the garden. I slipped quietly into Claire's room. The bed was made perfectly as always, but there were small signs of carelessness. A sweater draped over the chair. A drawer slightly ajar. I opened the drawer. Inside, beneath folded clothes, was a small velvet pouch. My breath caught. I knew that pouch. It had been mine once. Robert had given it to me on our 20th anniversary. I'd lost it years ago. With shaking hands, I opened it. Inside was a necklace. Not just any necklace. My necklace. But it wasn't the gift itself that broke me. It was the note tucked inside, written in Robert's handwriting. To Claire. "You deserve more than he ever gave you. R." The room spun around me. I gripped the dresser to steady myself, my heart hammering in my chest. I shoved the pouch back and closed the drawer just as I heard footsteps in the hall. Claire's voice floated in, cheerful and light, as if the world weren't collapsing around me. "Mom, you want me to make some tea?" I swallowed hard. "Yes, thank you." My voice came out hoarse, trembling. She walked past, none the wiser, but her perfume lingered in the air, a scent I now hated. That evening, I pretended to sleep early. I lay in bed, eyes closed, heart pounding, as Robert slipped quietly from the room. I waited 5 minutes, then rose, careful not to make the floorboards creak. I padded down the hall and stopped outside the study door. The murmur of voices confirmed what I already knew. This time I didn't just listen. I pulled out my phone and pressed record. At first the words were soft, muffled. But then Claire's laugh rang out. "Robert, if she ever finds out." "She won't," he interrupted. "She's too blind to see it." Blind. The word stabbed me deeper than any knife could. I covered my mouth, stifling a sob as I kept the phone steady. Every second burned into me like fire. When the door finally creaked open, I darted into the shadows of the hall, clutching the phone to my chest. Robert walked out first, adjusting his shirt. Claire followed, her hair tousled, her smile smug. They didn't see me. They walked past, whispering, giggling like teenagers sneaking around. I pressed my back against the wall, sliding down until I sat on the floor, shaking. The truth wasn't suspicion anymore. It was real. And I had the proof in my hand. Later that night, I locked myself in the bathroom and played the recording over and over. Each time the words cut deeper. Each time I hated myself more for not seeing it sooner. I looked in the mirror into my own tired eyes. What will you do now? I whispered. I didn't know. Confront them. Tell Daniel. Leave Robert after 43 years? Every choice felt like tearing my heart in two. But one thing was certain. The woman staring back at me in the mirror was no longer blind. And she would not stay silent much longer. The night I captured that recording, I didn't sleep a single second. I sat in the dark living room with the phone in my hand, replaying their voices over and over until the battery finally died. She's too blind to see it. Those words echoed through me, louder than my own heartbeat. After 43 years of marriage, I wasn't blind. I was betrayed. But now came the question that tore me apart. What would I do with the truth? The next morning, Robert buttered his toast as if nothing had happened. Claire breezed into the kitchen humming, pouring him coffee before even asking me if I wanted some. It was such a small gesture, but it made my stomach twist. Once upon a time, that was my place. Now it felt stolen like everything else between us. Mom, Daniel called this morning, Claire said brightly. He'll be back next week. I froze. Daniel. My son. Their victim without even knowing it. How could I tell him? How could I look him in the eye and say his wife had betrayed him with his own father? It would destroy him. The thought consumed me all day. I wandered through the house like a ghost, clutching the phone in my pocket as if it might guide me. In the garden, I knelt by Robert's roses, the ones he used to plant for me every spring. My fingers dug into the soil, trembling. If I stay silent, I whispered to the earth, I protect Daniel. But I live with a lie. Tears blurred my vision. If I tell the truth, I break his heart. I shatter our family forever. The wind rustled the roses but gave no answer. That evening, I confided in Mrs. Carter, my neighbor. She'd known me since we were girls. I told her only part of the story, just that I suspected something between Robert and Claire. Her eyes widened. Margaret, you must tell someone. You can't carry this alone. But if I do, I ruin everything. She reached across the table, squeezing my hand. Honey, it's not you who ruined it. They did. Don't let their sins silence you. Her words should have given me strength. Instead, they added to the weight pressing on my chest. That night, Robert reached for me in bed, placing his hand on mine. His touch, once familiar, now felt like fire. I love you, Margaret, he murmured, his voice steady. I stared at the ceiling, my body stiff. I wanted to scream. Then why her? Why betray me with our own daughter-in-law? But I said nothing. My silence was a prison I had built myself. The next day, I caught Claire in the hallway, slipping her phone into her pocket. She looked startled when she saw me. Oh, Mom. You scared me. Her smile was too wide, her tone too cheerful. I studied her face, wondering if she knew I had proof. Wondering how long she thought she could fool me. My lips trembled as I forced a smile. Just passing by. Inside I was screaming. That night, I sat again in the bathroom, staring at the phone in my hands. My reflection in the mirror looked older than I remembered. Lined, tired, broken. I whispered to myself as if practicing. Daniel, your wife and your father, they've betrayed you. The words felt jagged like shards of glass in my mouth. I tried again. Robert, I know what you've done with Claire. Each attempt ended with me covering my face, sobbing silently into my hands. By dawn, my decision was still no clearer. But one thing I knew for certain. I couldn't keep this secret much longer. Because silence wasn't saving my family anymore. It was killing me. The weight of silence was crushing me. Every step I took through that house felt heavier, as if the walls themselves knew the truth and pressed closer with each passing day. I told myself that today would be different. Today I would confront Robert. I rehearsed the words in my head as I washed the dishes. I know what you've done. I know about you and Claire. But when Robert walked in, smiling casually, asking if I wanted to go for a walk in the garden, the words evaporated. Dad, I just nodded. My courage shrank the moment his eyes met mine. Later, I sat in the bedroom with the recording on my phone. My thumb hovered over the play button, ready to replay the damning words, but before I could press it, the door opened. Claire stepped in without knocking, carrying a folded pile of towels. Oh, Mom, I thought you might need these. Her voice was sweet, too sweet. I forced a smile. Thank you, dear. She placed them on the dresser, her eyes lingering on my phone. For a split second, suspicion flickered across her face. "Everything all right?" she asked softly. "Yes," I said quickly, shoving the phone into my pocket. Her smile widened, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Good. I just want you to feel comfortable here." And then she left, the scent of her perfume clinging to the room. That night, Robert came to bed earlier than usual. He wrapped his arms around me, pulling me close, whispering, "I'm so grateful for you, Margaret. You've always been the best part of my life." The words, once comforting, now felt like poison. I lay stiff in his embrace, wondering if he could feel my heart racing. He knows I'm suspicious, I thought. He's trying to distract me. The next morning, something unexpected happened. I woke to find my phone missing from the nightstand. Panic surged through me. I tore apart the blankets, searched the drawers, even checked under the bed. Nothing. When I walked into the kitchen, Claire was already there, pouring herself coffee. She glanced at me with a smile too calm, too calculated. "Lose something, Mom?" Her tone was innocent, but my stomach dropped. I nodded slowly. "Yes. My phone." She sipped her coffee, her eyes never leaving mine. "I'm sure it'll turn up." But the chill in her voice told me otherwise. That afternoon, Robert avoided me. He stayed in his study with the door closed, emerging only for meals. When I asked him a simple question about the bills, he snapped, "Don't worry about it, Margaret. I've got it handled." It wasn't the words, but the edge in his voice that confirmed my fears. They knew. Somehow they knew I had proof. I sat in the garden that evening, clutching the velvet pouch I'd taken from Claire's drawer. At least I still had this. The necklace Robert once gave me, now tainted with betrayal. I whispered to myself, "You're not crazy. You're not blind. They're hiding something and they know you know." But the thought chilled me. If they were desperate enough to cover their tracks, what would they do to keep me silent? When I returned to the house, Claire and Robert were sitting together at the kitchen table. Their laughter stopped the moment I entered. Robert cleared his throat. "Margaret, we need to talk." The words made my blood run cold. Because I had been preparing to confront them. But now it seemed they were preparing to confront me first. "Margaret, we need to talk." Robert's voice was calm, too calm. He sat at the table beside Claire, their chairs close enough that it made my skin crawl. I forced my legs to carry me forward. "All right," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Talk." He folded his hands as though rehearsed. "Claire and we think you've been under a lot of stress lately. Losing sleep, misplacing things, feeling suspicious. It's not good for your health." Claire leaned in, her tone sweet but sharp. "His Mom. We're worried about you. Daniel's worried too. Maybe you should see someone. A doctor." My stomach twisted. A doctor. Was this their plan? To make me seem unstable? I clenched my fists under the table. "I know what I heard," I said softly but firmly. Robert's eyes narrowed. "And what exactly do you think you heard?" For a moment my throat closed. Should I say it outright? Should I accuse them now? But then Claire tilted her head, smiling like a predator. "Sometimes our minds play tricks, Mom. Especially at night. You've always been so trusting. Maybe your imagination is overworking." Her words stung, not because they were true, but because she said them with such confidence, as though I really were losing my mind. The rest of that day they treated me like glass. Too much sweetness. Too many careful glances when they thought I wasn't looking. At dinner, Claire served me first, piling my plate high, smiling like the perfect daughter-in-law. Robert asked about my knitting, my roses, small talk that felt like daggers. But beneath it all, I saw the truth. They were united now, not just in their betrayal but in their defense. That night, I searched every corner of the house for my phone. It was gone. Erased probably. My proof vanished. I collapsed into my armchair, tears streaming down my face. "Lord, what do I do?" I whispered into the empty room. Robert passed by a moment later, pausing at the doorway. His voice was soft, but the steel beneath it made me shiver. "You should rest, Margaret. Don't let your thoughts run away with you." And then he was gone, leaving me shaking, feeling smaller than ever. The next morning, Claire brought me tea. She set the cup on the table, her smile wide. "I added a little honey. Just the way you like it," she said. But I didn't touch it. Not a sip. My hands shook as I pushed it aside. Her eyes flickered with something cold. "Not thirsty." "Not now," I murmured. She shrugged, but the smile stayed. I realized then, It wasn't just about keeping me quiet. They wanted me to doubt myself, to surrender. Maybe even to disappear. That evening, I pulled out the velvet pouch again, clutching the necklace tight in my palm. Proof. Not enough for the world, but enough for me. I whispered to Robert's old photo on the wall. You gave this to me once to prove your love. Now you've given it to her to prove my foolishness. The weight of it was unbearable. But it also gave me resolve. If they wanted me weak, if they wanted me silent, I would not give them that satisfaction. As I slipped into bed that night, Robert turned to me, his smile calm. Margaret, he said softly, I need you to trust me. Whatever you think you know, it's wrong. I met his gaze, my heart pounding, and whispered back. No, Robert. What's wrong is what you've done. His face tightened, the mask slipping for just a second. And in that moment I knew, this war inside my home was only beginning. The morning after I dared to confront Robert with that single sentence, what's wrong is what you've done, the air in the house changed. No more fake smiles. No more sugary words. Now there was silence, heavy and sharp, broken only by clipped commands and quick footsteps. Claire barely looked at me. When she did, her eyes were cold, her mouth tight. Mom, you really should take better care of yourself, she said one afternoon, her tone dripping with sarcasm. People might think you're losing it. Robert stood behind her, arms crossed. He didn't defend me. He didn't deny her words. He simply stared, his silence louder than any insult. I sat at the kitchen table, my teacup trembling in my hands, forcing myself not to cry. They want me weak, I thought. They want me broken. But I would not give them that. That evening, after they'd both gone out, Robert to run errands, Claire to the store, I searched the house again. I rifled through drawers, cupboards, even the trash. And in the bottom of Robert's desk drawer, hidden beneath a pile of envelopes, I found it. My phone. Dead, wiped clean, but still mine. My breath caught. They thought they had erased the proof, erased my courage. But holding the phone in my hand, I felt a spark reignite inside me. They could take the recording. They could try to twist my mind. But they couldn't erase what I knew. That night, Robert confronted me in the living room. His face was hard, his voice low. Margaret, you need to stop this nonsense. You're making yourself sick. I looked him in the eye, my voice steady. I'm not sick, Robert. I'm awake. For a split second, his jaw tightened, his hand clenching into a fist at his side. Then he forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. You'll regret pushing me, he muttered, turning away. Later, I overheard Claire on the phone in the hallway. Yes, Daniel, everything's fine here, she said sweetly. But honestly, I'm worried about your mom. She's been confused, paranoid. Maybe when you get back we should consider other options. Other options. The words chilled me. A nursing home. That's what she meant. They wanted me out of the house. Out of their way. My home. The house Robert and I built together, where we raised Daniel, where every memory of my life lived, would be theirs. I returned to my room, clutching the velvet pouch with the necklace. The one piece of proof they hadn't stolen. I whispered into the silence, Robert, you can take my peace, you can break my heart, but you will not take this house from me. The words steadied me like armor. At dinner the next evening, Claire leaned across the table, her smile thin. Mom, maybe you'd be happier somewhere with more support. Somewhere you don't have to worry about cooking, cleaning, all that stress. Robert nodded. It might be for the best. I set down my fork, meeting both their eyes. I'm not going anywhere, I said firmly. This is my home. And I'll die in it if I must. The silence that followed was sharp as broken glass. Claire's smile faltered. Robert's gaze hardened. And in that silence, I knew a battle line had been drawn. The morning sun streamed through the curtains, but the warmth did nothing to calm the chill in my chest. I moved through the house slowly, listening, watching. Every corner felt hostile now, as if the very walls carried their whispers. That day I overheard them in the kitchen. She's getting worse, Claire said, her voice low but sharp. Last night she was talking to herself again. If Daniel sees her like this, he'll know she can't manage on her own. Robert sighed. I'll handle it. We'll make the calls. A home will be best for everyone. My breath caught. A home. Not our home. A nursing home. I stepped back from the doorway before they saw me, pressing a hand to my mouth to stifle the cry rising in my throat. So it was true. They wanted me out. Out of my own life. But as much as despair tugged at me, something else stirred too. Fire. They thought I was weak, confused, fragile. But I had survived 43 years of marriage, raising a child, burying friends and family. I wasn't weak. Not yet. That afternoon I pulled out an old shoebox from the closet. Inside were photos, letters, small things that mattered only to me. And tucked beneath it all was something I hadn't touched in years. Robert's old journal. My hands trembled as I opened it. The words inside were from decades ago. Plans for our house, dreams for our future. Tears welled up in my eyes. This was the man I had loved. The man who had loved me once. Now that man was gone, replaced by someone who would betray me and plot against me with the woman who should have been like a daughter. I closed the journal and whispered, "If you want war, Robert, you'll have it." The next day Claire cornered me in the hallway. Her smile was stretched too thin, her eyes glinting with something cruel. "Mom, I know this is hard," she said softly, "but a nursing home will be good for you. You'll have company medical care. You won't have to worry about anything." I met her gaze, my voice calm but firm. "I'm not leaving." Her smile vanished. "You don't have a choice." That night I heard the phone ring. Robert answered in the study, his voice hushed. "Yes, this is Robert Hayes. We're looking for placement. It's for my wife. She's declining." My heart pounded as I pressed my ear to the door. His words were like knives. Declining. That was his excuse. To the world I wasn't betrayed, I was sick. I clenched my fist. If he wanted to paint me as fragile, I would show him just how strong I could be. The following morning, while they were both distracted, I walked down to Mrs. Carter's house. My neighbor opened the door, surprise on her face. "Margaret, you look pale. Are you all right?" I shook my head, tears stinging my eyes. "No, I'm not. I need your help." Inside, over a cup of tea, I told her everything. The laughter behind the door, the necklace, the recording that had disappeared, the whispers about a nursing home. She held my hand tightly. "You can't stay silent anymore, Margaret. If Daniel comes home and they've already put you away, you'll lose everything." Her words struck deep. No more silence. That night, I sat alone in the bedroom, staring at Robert's side of the bed. My mind was racing, my heart pounding with a new clarity. I would not wait for Daniel. I would not wait to be carried off quietly to some home while they claimed my life, my house, my dignity. I had been patient. I had been silent. But not anymore. Tomorrow I would act. The next morning the house felt colder than ever. Claire hummed in the kitchen, her voice too bright, too rehearsed. Robert sat at the table reading the newspaper, but I could see the tension in his jaw. They were waiting. Waiting for the right moment to move me like a pawn off the board. But I had my own plans now. When Claire left for groceries and Robert went to the hardware store, I moved quickly. I opened the drawer in Robert's study where I'd found my phone before. Nothing. But beneath the drawer liner, tucked flat against the wood, was a folded piece of paper. My hands shook as I pulled it free. It was a brochure. Silver Pines Assisted Living. My name was scribbled in Robert's handwriting at the top. Anger surged hot in my chest. They were already making plans, choosing the place where they would hide me away, erase me. I stuffed the brochure into my pocket and hurried down the street to Mrs. Carter's house. She opened the door, surprised. "Margaret, what's happened?" I held out the brochure, my voice shaking. "They've already picked a home. They're going to send me away, take the house, everything." Mrs. Carter scanned the page, her lips pressed tight. "You need proof, more than just this. Something Daniel can't deny." I nodded, my heart pounding. "I'll get it. Tonight." Back at the house, I kept my head down, acting meek, quiet. I let Claire chatter about dinner, let Robert pretend to read. But when night came, I moved silently down the hall. The study door was ajar. I crept closer, pressing myself to the wall. "Once she's admitted, we'll have power of attorney," Robert was saying. His voice was firm, certain. "Daniel won't question it if he thinks it's for her health." Claire laughed softly. "And then the house will be ours." I bit my lip hard, fighting back a cry. Slowly I raised my phone. My old one they thought was empty, but I had set it to record again earlier. Every word fell into its memory. Their voices. Their plans. Their betrayal. I returned to my room, heart pounding, clutching the phone. For the first time in weeks I felt something like hope. This was proof. Real proof. But I couldn't stop there. I dialed Daniel's number with trembling hands. It rang and rang, then his voicemail clicked on. "Daniel," I whispered into the phone, my voice breaking. "Mom. Please call me back." There's something you need to know about Claire, and about your father. My words cracked, but I forced them out. They're planning to send me away. Please, Daniel, believe me. I hung up, tears streaming down my face. The next morning, Robert eyed me closely over breakfast. You look tired, Margaret. Maybe today we should visit Silver Pines. Just to take a look. Claire's smile was razor sharp. His mom. Just a visit. No pressure. I stirred my coffee slowly, hiding the fire in my chest. We'll see, I said softly. Inside, my resolve hardened. They thought they were steering me toward the end. But I had already set the wheels of truth in motion. And when Daniel came home, they would face the storm they had created. The day Daniel came home, the air in the house was thick, like a storm about to break. I sat at the kitchen table, hands trembling around a cup of untouched tea, waiting for the sound of his car in the driveway. When I heard the crunch of tires on gravel, my heart nearly stopped. Claire rushed to the door, her voice syrupy sweet. Daniel. Welcome home. She wrapped her arms around him, pressing her cheek to his. Robert followed, patting his son's back. Good to have you back, son. Daniel smiled, though his eyes flickered toward me, curious. Mom, are you all right? I nodded, though my throat was tight. I'm glad you're here, Daniel. We need to talk. That evening we sat in the living room. Robert on one chair, Claire perched close to him. Daniel sat across from me, his brow furrowed. Claire started first. Daniel, your mother's been under a lot of stress. We're worried about her health. She's been confused, paranoid. Paranoid? I interrupted, my voice stronger than I expected. Robert's tone was firm. Margaret, please. Let us handle this. But I didn't stop. With shaking hands, I pulled my phone from my pocket. Daniel, I left you a message. Did you hear it? He frowned. I haven't had the chance yet. Then hear this now. I pressed play. The room filled with Robert's voice. Once she's admitted, we'll have power of attorney. Daniel won't question it if he thinks it's for her health. Then Claire's laugh, and then the house will be ours. The words hung heavy in the air. Daniel's face went pale. He turned slowly toward his wife, his voice barely a whisper. Claire, what is this? She stammered. Daniel, it's not what it sounds like. But he cut her off. Not what it sounds like. You and my father, plotting against my mother? Against me. His voice cracked, full of rage and disbelief. Robert stood, his face flushed. Daniel, listen, this is being twisted. Your mother is imagining things and... No. Daniel shouted, rising to his feet. I just heard your voice, Dad. I just heard hers. Don't you dare call Mom crazy. Tears filled my eyes. My son, my Daniel, finally believed me. Claire tried to grab his arm. Daniel, please, I love you. He yanked away, his voice trembling. Love, you betrayed me. With him. In our own home. The silence that followed was louder than any scream. Daniel's hands shook as he turned back to me. Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have been here. I should have protected you. I took his hand, squeezing it tightly. It's not your fault, Daniel. None of this is your fault. Robert's face hardened, but his voice was low. You'll regret this, Margaret. Turning your own son against me. I looked him in the eye, my voice steady. No, Robert. You did that yourself. That night, Daniel packed his things. Claire begged, sobbing, pleading for forgiveness, but he walked away, leaving her collapsed on the floor. Robert didn't follow. He sat in his chair, staring at the wall as if the weight of his choices had finally crushed him. I stood in the doorway, watching the life I had built crumble into dust. 43 years of marriage shattered. My son's trust in his father broken beyond repair. And yet, as painful as it was, there was relief too. The truth was finally out. Later, alone in my room, I lit a candle by Robert's old photo. I survived, Robert, I whispered. But we did not. The flame flickered, steady and soft. And though my heart ached with grief, I knew I had done the only thing I could. The truth had cost me everything. But silence would have cost me even more.